We have this unique event at Bridge Bowl. It doesn't happen very often, but it's these downhill wind events. And so this is kind of just I haven't ever given this to anybody. I've never really mentioned this. We just kind of work on it at the hill. For the last, well, I don't know, it's been 5 or 6. It's been a problem ever since I started. I've been snow safety director for 12 seasons. It's always been this surprise event that hits us and stresses you out, and we just never figured out a way to deal with it or figure out when it was coming, okay? So that's what this is gonna be about. That's how we got it. As you know, Bridge Bowl, it's 16 miles up there. Anybody not know where Bridge Bowl is in this room? It's 16 miles up the road. Its ridge elevation is 8,600 to 8,700 feet. The bridges are basically just a narrow strip of mountains right there that run predominantly north and south. This is all about winds, so I'll just tell you kind of what the winds do most of the time. Most of the time, it's westerly on the ridge top, and it can be, there's rare days that it's calm. It's usually out of the west, 15 to 35. Somewhere in there is general number. Of course, it bumps up into the 45s, 60s, but rarely is it ever just dead calm on the ridge top. So occasionally we have these east wind events. We had one yesterday. It kept things cool, so we didn't have any closures with the heat and the sun, but we'll get straight east wind, so it flips around from the westerly to the east. When it's flipping around, it'll either flip around and we'll have a brief north wind event, but rarely does it ever blow southerly on the ridge top, okay? So that's kind of a rare event. Where we do get our southerly winds is our mid-mountain winds. Will be completely, they won't be westerly. They'll have strong southerly winds. It'll blow about to where the bridge or lift line is. That'll be southerly, and then still westerly on the ridge top, and you'll have northerly winds blowing maybe across here to this rib between Bridger Gully and the North Pole. So kind of a mix. It all depends on westerly ridge top. It can be coming either direction, sometimes meeting in the middle, okay? Rarely do we ever have an upslope event. It'll just kind of be downslope. And this is the event I'm going to talk about, is this occasional downsloping wind event. Same picture, pretty much. So this downslope wind event is, what I'm talking about is the winds, it'll be 15 to 45 on the ridge. It can be anywhere in that realm. Dead calm right here, okay? Won't be a puff of wind. You'll come down to this elevation right here, all the way across, and you'll have these, if you're riding the lift, it'll be blowing in your face, like, it'll be anywhere from 15 to 45, sometimes 50 miles an hour. Really strong, in your face, downsloping winds. Sorry, I'm nervous. I don't get to do this very often.
I think you're doing great.
Thanks. So yeah, these winds touch down in the mid elevations, okay? And this touchdown can happen somewhere else too. It doesn't necessarily touch down here. Maybe the winds will touch down at this level. Maybe they're only hitting the base area, okay? And that'll happen. It only happens a couple times a year. We'll have this event. That's why it's kind of hard to track and get a feel for, is that this only happened a few times a season. So most of the time it doesn't. It's a rare occasion, not rare, occasional. So this morning would have been a perfect example of a time when this might happen. It was sunny out, it was calm in town, it was kind of nice. You're not expecting this kind of event to occur, to drive that far and get out of your car and see the flags blowing and get on the lift. It's a sunglasses day. You're like, you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna wear my sunglasses, it's gonna be perfect out, right, Alex? And you're like, yeah, no problem. And if you didn't look at the midway winds on the anemometer, you wouldn't even bring your goggles, and you'd be getting on the Bridger lift and just get hammered and cold. And it's really brutal. You got your backpack in front of you. There's really nothing you can do. So what the concern that we have is, one of the concerns is we'll move snow from these bigger fetch zones here, and here, and in here, and up here. And we'll deposit them into slabs, deep slabs, relatively quickly, in from this fetch zone down into here. Bronco will smooth right out. Sluice box or avalanche gulch will be completely smooth. Lower sluice box will be all smooth. We'll have big slabs in the, let's see, where are we? Bridge Bowl. Down here in lower D route region, pretty good slabs. So the problem with these is, here's a rare time when it's kind of cloudy and we're having this downslope event, so there's enough moisture in the air to actually see this happening, okay? Right, this is on saddle, so it's a little different topography. It was windy all the way through there. But, let's see, sitting at PHQ, there wasn't a puff of breeze this day. So they form really rapidly. For example, if you're familiar with Bridger, I can be the bottom of Bridger, ride the lift, ride the tow, slide over to the bears, and there'll be a 6-inch slab. I'll cut it out with a ski cut, go back around, ride the Bridger lift, ride the tow, go back over, cut out a 6-inch slab in the same place, okay? 15 minutes or less. And when I should go back a couple. So this is the main area I'm talking about, is right in here. And here's the Bridger lift, so you're making this quick lap around, getting up here, sliding across, coming down here, tailwind, and cutting out a big slab here, or a big slab right there. And then just kind of run down into this intermediate terrain. So we have a lift somewhere in here. There's a lift. This is where you were skiing with your children the other day, right there. And so people cut out across here, right underneath these big slabs that are forming really rapidly, right? So I have hit people as they were traversing out, as embarrassing as that is. And I've cut that slab out and come over the horizon and seen this guy on a snowboard just get plowed over by 6-inch slab. It was long. So it happens quickly, happens above intermediate terrain, and it typically occurs when we don't expect to see it. So what they do is that if it happens overnight, we'll be caught by surprise. We'll wake up, you wake up in the morning, you called at 8 o'clock morning instead of a 7 o'clock morning, which 7 o'clock is our avalanche control kind of typical start. It gives us time to use explosives, to travel the mountain, to seek things out. If we come in at 8 o'clock, we're riding with other departments, we're slowed down by that alone. And we don't have time to get explosives out. We don't have time to get everybody to run a route. We have to get to posting stations. So it causes us to rush, to have closures. And just being in that rush is really probably the most dangerous thing that we could do, because you're like in a big hurry. You know what to do. It's just like everything you're talking about. You're like, you know what to do, so you go out and you grab your explosives and you're like, well, I only got 10 minutes now. And that makes a big difference. Rather, if it was at 7 o'clock morning, we could have forecasted it. We would have had all this time in the world to take care of these few little pockets. But instead, we're rushed. And there's people that are, I don't know why we're rushed, but just Bridger Bowl. And the funny thing about it is, not funny for the kids, but say you're riding a quad with a small child, and this downhill winds, like I said, they can be 45 to 60 miles an hour. And if you leave town right now and went up there, you'd be like, yeah, cool. You get there, the flags are blowing pretty hard. You're like, oh, this is gonna be kind of miserable with my little kid. And you get on the lift and you go to get off. Your little kid can't get off the chair because it's blowing so hard at the top of the quad. You'll just be blown literally back into the chair, And it can cause accidents with a small child getting blown into the chair while it's coming around the bull wheel, hitting them in the head and stuff like that. So if we can forecast these events, we can give ski school a heads up and tell them, have them, delay their program for the day, maybe come back on a nicer day, something like that. So it's kind of, for other departments, it matters as well. And then if we do have any search and rescue operations or need a helicopter for some reason, flying into that, when it looks like this, when you leave the fairgrounds, where we stage, you leave the fairgrounds here and you go over there and you fly into that, I think you could say that's not something you want to do, right? Not at all, right?
But I mean, I'm always game for a third crash.
So here's a little video Ray Dombrowski took during one of these events. It was kind of another time when we did have enough moisture in the air to form a cloud while this was happening. Like I said, usually these are high pressure times so that you don't even get this cloud. So this is a pretty rare video that Ray managed to shoot here. It just kind of looks like some sort of owl flying or something like that. And so here's an example. Here's an email. We do these every night. We send them to all the patrollers and to Doug and Eric and Alex as well. Just a very brief synopsis of what we see each day. And Griff worked that day and said, it looked like a slow morning caught us out. Downhill winds put slabs in the bears. A low, B north, all those places I pointed out, okay? And that's 2014. Yeah, so the places he was talking about, downhill winds put slabs here, up here, over here, and in the ravine right there. So a lot of that. Quite a few places to go if you come in at 8 o'clock, right? You're like, okay, and we're down to 10 people because 10 people got to do other things. And so we have 10 people that have to go to those places and seek out all this other stuff. So we weren't quite ready for it. This is a close-up of Bridger Gully without a wet slab in it. I mean, you've seen this picture 100 times, right, with the giant wet slab that came through at one point. It's just a close-up example of what I'm talking about. Again, calm right here, 15 to 45 on the ridge, whatever, clear day. Apron traverse comes across there. You step down to right here, it's 45 miles an hour. And it's pulling all the snow out of Bridger Gully, which is fairly low angle fetch, into this little steeper area right here and right through here at Mitchell's. And all the snow's coming out of this fetch using this little tree line as a snow fence and depositing this band of hard slab all the way through. Okay, does that, everybody get the problem here? This is Bridger Gully the morning after one of these events happens. So the day before, it was 12 inches of probably 4-day-old powder, really fist snow. And this is the next morning when we came into one of these downhill wind events that happened. So all the snow has been stripped out into sastrugi. I promised I wouldn't say that word in front of everybody. So then this is a small example of what we have going on. Just a small, this is one of those times when I was doing those laps I was talking about. I was coming out, I was cutting this out. Going down, coming around, cutting the same thing out again, okay? Over and over and over again. So, the brains. Randy, he likes to solve problems, right? We all know Randy Elliott. We're working on this for years and years and we couldn't figure out anything that worked. If you don't know Randy, he's the general manager. He's also, well, he's not the general manager anymore. He gave that up to Pettit, but he's still the mountain manager and he's probably our best avalanche technician we got. He just travels all over. He's got a wealth of experience that we draw from. And well, he was sick of us being surprised by this problem, and he was like, there were all kinds of ideas, you know. I thought maybe it was where the wind was hitting the west side and coming over where the curl happened and then blowing across however the ridge lines were. There was that. There was the theory that it only happens when the high pressure is just up into the northwest of us. We thought that maybe that was it, but that didn't seem to pan out either. And so called out to his stepson, Jamie Yount, who everybody in this room knows. He's a meteorologist, a YDOT technician, and currently the avalanche program manager for CDOT. So you know Jamie pretty well, I would imagine. So Jamie came up with this idea that northerly winds in the upper atmosphere, at some level, we're meeting westerly winds in the lower atmosphere, okay? Upper atmosphere being jet stream on down to maybe 500 level or something like that. The ridge pressure level is 750, is that right, Alex? Right? Around 750 millibar type thing. I was asking. 735. 735, okay. Depending on the day. So they meet with the westerly winds in the lower atmosphere, and they create this shearing effect and creating a rotor. Okay, so the shear combined with the ridge line that are mountains that are relatively narrow, and the north-south orientation of it forces this wind to strike and come into a downslope wind pattern. Okay, seemed pretty good during lunch while we were talking about this. And having said that, now you can kind of see this rotor forming, right? Watch this all again, another 19 seconds of your life you'll never get back. But it's kind of cool now that you think about that, think about how it's sliding, working with the topography in some way, creating this rotation, and then driving it down slope. So we needed to figure out a way to forecast that. You know, winds in the upper atmosphere, you know, how do you do that? You can look at lots of different things. And what was introduced to me back in like 2009 or something like that was this time heights graph. Does people know about does anyone know how to use this? A couple of people? Raise your hands a little taller. Okay, there's a few people. So this isn't the one that we really use for that, for what I'm talking about. We use this one, but that's a prettier picture. Basically, you have time going from right to left, like this. You have elevation, so time, and then elevation heights. So right here at 750 is basically our ridge line, okay? Right through here. At about 5 o'clock tonight or 6 o'clock tonight, on top of the ridge, in space-time continuum, that's where you'll be if you're standing on the ridge, right? At midnight, you'd be there. Next day, you know, it works your way back this way into the future. Winds, I mean, I'm sure we're all familiar with wind flags, direction, and speed. And so this is the tool that Jamie kind of came up with. So what we had to do was recognize and see on the simple graph. It's so simple, right? Now you see it, that this should be so easy. Just recognize when there's wind in the upper atmosphere and westerly in the lower. And so there's your westerly lower, and there's your northerly in the upper atmosphere. So if you notice, this is striking down. The shear isn't happening. Let's see. The shear isn't happening until higher up. Right here we have a westerly and we have a northerly. It's not really colliding. This particular day, it didn't really hit the bears. It struck down kind of the top of the quad to that base area. So this isn't the best example, but also the University of Washington wouldn't give me any back graphs on this for some reason. So they held it tight to their
Pete, how are you determining that elevation which is happening?
By using 750. I mean, you guys can call me out on anything here. I'm just knocking this out. But I'm assuming 750 is our ridge top. Okay, that's our elevation. As you go up higher in the atmosphere, 300 is the jet stream.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, where are you determining the elevation of the shear?
Oh, so let's pretend that this wasn't westerly right here, and we had northerly component right here,
Okay,
and then
right.
a
So when
westerly
there's
right there.
after ridge level.
Yeah, that happens right at the ridge level.
Okay.
That seems to be where, when we get it striking down perfectly at the Bridger Gully level. So what Jamie didn't really have a clue when he started out looking at this. He was like, I really don't know. This is the only thing I kind of see. And this is, if you see this pattern in Kansas, this shear, this perpendicular at different elevations like that, it's a pattern used to forecast for tornadoes. So if we flattened out the Bridgers and this happened, we would have a tornado in Bozeman. So just using this, just using that, like I said, this time heights graph, I'm gonna go back a couple. If I only had one forecast tool to use at Bridger Bowl, this would be the page right here. So because you got moisture, you got winds, direction, you got temperature all wrapped up into this simple thing. So it's been working really well lately. And since Jamie kind of came up with that, and after that event in 2014, that's when Jamie started looked at it briefly for us, and we've been using it ever since. And then here's another email to the Forest Service for another night, and it's full on downhill winds. So we did have, I can't say, I'll just cover up this D3, because that's probably a mistake. About 2-pound shots, 36-inch crown lines, you know, really sensitive in just that small isolated area. You know, models show more winds through the thing. Works at 7 the next day because we might continue to have this continued wind pattern and loading pattern. Okay, and then here's what I'm trying to emphasize is Eric wrote back. Eric Knopf writes back. He says it's crazy to think the winds are still hammering in the Bridgers when it's fairly calm elsewhere, because it is unique. It's just kind of unique to Bridger Bowl. You don't even see this coming this way, Bridger Peak or anything, and you don't really see it so much. The winds just rake Fairy Lakes anyway. So I don't have any definitive data. Like I said, I tried to get the University of Washington to send me the stuff, and since I wasn't a student there, they held it close to their vest, and I sniped back and said, yeah, thanks a lot for having all this information you won't share with me, so we'll never get it now. So good luck if you want to, if you want to follow up on this. But because I have all the historical days when this happened, you know, so I'm just going to match it up really simply. And anyway, but it seems like I said, the 750 is perfect for doing that, and it's depositing snow in the Bears, and you know, below Wild Man's and D route, and smoothing out sluice box really nice, and making that great skiing, and knocking kids off the quad, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not really sure why I put that in there. Threw it together. Here's another picture of Bridger Gully that I threw in. This is just a smaller event. This is just coming out of Mama Bear after just a shot in the morning with not a dramatic event with Mama Bear, Papa Bear, all the way down in the flats into the intermediate terrain we were talking about before. So like currently, yeah, like I said, it hasn't been working. What I'm trying to do now is using that time height, figure out, other than seems like the 750 is where we get it happening, figure it out if it is occurring lower, if that shear's lower, where does it start? If that shear's higher, where is it touching down? So like I said, when it was higher earlier, in that other model, it was hitting the top of the quad and the base area really hard, but right at 750. But I don't have enough data, and it's just a work in progress between Griff and myself and some other people that are kind of following this. So, and then of course I'm interested to know if this happens elsewhere, this downslope event happens elsewhere, and if it is, are you forecasting it accurately? There's a lot of forecasters in the room here. If you're nailing it, and let me know what tools you're using, and it'd be great to figure out some more stuff and work with somebody else. So That's just a few of us that are there. So yeah, I gotta thank Randy for putting some effort into figuring it out, Jamie for figuring it out a little bit, Ray for the footage, Jim Woodmansey for giving us a quick course, Richard Griffin for working with me on this on a daily basis, and being able to see it coming. Marcus Fuller, I don't know if you know him, he's a local skier at Bridge Ball, odd character, but he's the one that introduced us all to this time heights graph. He was like, this is something you guys should try using, and that was way back when Slushman's Open, he showed us that. Richmond put it together, and I stole some pictures from John Miller. But that's all I got. You got any questions that I won't be able to answer about meteorology?
So have you called in any early mornings because it's meet at 7:50?
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've done it since for the last 4 or 5 years. We've been, or 4 seasons, we've been able to. We haven't missed one. Yeah. We haven't missed one, but we have came in and had it striking down at elevations that didn't create any loading. Okay, so we did kind of waste the hour because we didn't know that it was only going to be in the base area, so other than that, so we've been there early when we didn't need to be a few times, but it's mostly accurate, yeah. Chelan?
Well, first of all, I'm jealous that this only happens a couple times a year to you, because down at Lone Mountain, it pretty much happens every time it stops snowing. So we'll only have the low density powder while it's snowing. What I'm not envious of is the fact that you have 12 inches of low density snow in your fetches to cause this, because we only end up usually with 3 to 6 inch down sloping wind slabs instead of like 12 to 24 inches overnight, which is nice. I'm wondering is it independent of ridgetop velocity? Can you have any ridgetop velocity and it touches down at the same place based on where it's meeting in the atmosphere, or does it touch down lower based on higher velocities, or does it touch down higher based on lower velocities at ridgetops?
These are things I'm trying to figure out. Right now, it doesn't seem like I've been standing on the ridge and it's barely been a puff of wind, been maybe 15, and you hit the top of Bridger Gully and it's 45. I've also been on the ridge when it's blowing 35 to 45, and you go there and it's blowing 45. Because that was my original, I even drew it out one time a while back. It's kind of an embarrassing thing that I did. I drew out this, what I thought was the theory on the back of a PBR box, and in Sharpie, and I had this wave coming over and crashing and determining heights on all this, and it's kind of hasn't worked out that the wind speed on the ridgetop
Has anything to do with where it's touching?
Yeah, it just seems to be where that shear is happening rather than the velocities right now. It's the position of the shear rather than the wind velocities themselves. Because that can be really light, westerly, or it can be really strong westerly, and it can be really light northerly, or really strong northerly, or a combination, any one of those combinations. So I just need more data, more days of it, and that would help a lot. So I got anything else?
I'll take the risk of asking a stupid question, but did you think about putting an anemometer? Just wind gauge?
Oh, we have several.
But in that specific place?
At the top of Bridger Gully.
Yeah, where you actually have the ditch area.
We have the anemometer at Midway at Bridger, and that's about the same elevation as this, and that works well for when you see that spinning really hard at Midway, you're pretty sure it's blowing really hard in Bridger Gully at the same time. And it's about the same elevation, so it works out. That's our forecast. That's our indicator anemometer.
Usually that's one of the few times that anemometer comes out of the west.
Right. That's exactly right.
Otherwise, it's usually like west, southwest, because it comes across.
Yeah. So we do have the tool. We do have the instrument.
Indicator for you to decide if you want to count 7 or 8.
What's that?
Is that not good indicator?
Oh, but say, the forecast from the National Weather Service or NOAA or whatever would say winds will be light, it's going to be sunny, it's going to be nice. So you're like, And we didn't have this time heights graph or know how to read it like we do now. And so we would be like, sunny day, high pressure, it hasn't snowed. These events, it hasn't snowed in days, you know? So it was like, there was no indicator of this event happening. So that's why we would say 8 o'clock morning, and then we would come in and see this happening. And it would happen overnight while you're asleep, you know? So I don't have the anemometer in my brain all night long, you know, just watching it spin. And so it turns west at midnight, and obviously in 6 or 7 hours at forming a 6-inch slab every 20 minutes and scouring it out, it happens rapidly from midnight to whatever, to 7 o'clock in the morning, and have it all scoured out by the time you get there. So yeah, our indicator is the next morning, and now we can kind of forecast it a little bit as best we can. Blaze?
Do you, does this tend to happen when you have really cold Arctic air in the north, or just northerly flow in the upper atmosphere?
I don't know the temperatures really, like I said
Like,
today.
well, if you say it's like sunglasses, is it sunglasses in really bitter cold, or is it sunglasses?
No, it could be just sunglasses, yeah, and not bitter cold, but then the wind in your face and
Yeah.
stuff makes it cold. So you can have a kind of warmer downhill wind as well as a bitter cold downhill wind, wouldn't you say? People that ride the bridge lift when this is happening. So,
It's cold and bitter cold.
cold and bitter cold, yeah. Yeah, so that might have some, I'm sure there's a temperature influence here somewhere. I just don't know what it is. Like I said, I need to.
There's a lot for me to learn.
No, I mean, this is really fascinating. It's a problem we've struggled with this year, only for us, it's on east sides of our ranges, and these downslope wind events, and, I mean, we don't even have a wind sensor in the Swan range, so we get surprised. And so I'm trying to figure this.
I want to take care of that, that's what I'm saying here.
So, I mean, this is a really interesting problem. It's slightly different, but it's a really, I mean, and on the scale we're at, we're not.
It'd be interesting if you could look at your time height graph and see if, when you do get your downslopes,
Yeah.
if you're seeing this shear.
Yeah,
So,
that's a
That'd
great.
be great. And you in Colorado, here, I'm sure there's places that happen in Colorado, a vast forecast region.
Yeah, we have weather stations
All right, anything else I can not answer? All right, thank you.
That was awesome.